Real cottage cheese has 4 ingredients: cultured milk, cream, salt, and enzymes. Several of the best-selling cottage cheese brands in America have more than a dozen ingredients, including a seaweed-derived additive. The USDA's own Organic Standards Advisory Board voted to remove from approved products because of peer-reviewed gut inflammation research. Here are the 12. Brand 12 to avoid: Kemps Cottage Cheese. Kemps is a dairy brand sold across the upper Midwest as a local heritage product. Several Kemps cottage cheese varieties include guar gum and Carrageenan alongside the dairy base. Neither is a dairy ingredient. They are industrial texture agents added to compensate for reduced fat. A consumer buying Kemps for its regional dairy heritage receives the same industrial thickener package found in mass-market national brands that position themselves on cost rather than quality. Brand 11 to avoid: Prairie Farms Cottage Cheese. Prairie Farms is a farmer-owned Midwest dairy cooperative whose cooperative structure does not prevent its cottage cheese from including Carrageenan and modified food starch. Modified food starch is an industrial corn-derived thickener whose appearance in a dairy product that should not require any thickener reflects cost optimization rather than quality commitment. The cooperative branding does not separate this formula from the same additive categories found in the most heavily processed mainstream brands. Brand 10 to avoid: Friendship. Dairies Cottage Cheese. Friendship Dairies has operated since 1954 and markets around its New York dairy heritage. Friendship's low-fat cottage cheese varieties contain Carrageenan, which the Cornucopia Institute's Cottage Cheese Scorecard identified as a primary marker of overprocessed cottage cheese. The low-fat format is where Carrageenan is most commonly added, because fat reduction is what makes the additive necessary. Consumers choosing low-fat dairy to reduce saturated fat are not choosing to receive an additive. The USDA's own advisory board has twice voted to remove from organic certification. Brand 9 to avoid: Lucerne Cottage Cheese, Safeway, and Albertsons. Lucerne is the private label dairy brand used by Safeway and Albertsons, operating with the same cost and sourcing model that characterizes store brands broadly. Lucerne Cottage Cheese carries a multiple additive formula, including gums and Carrageenan, without sourcing transparency or quality verification. The Albertsons Company's parent was also included in the October 2024 Bruce Pack Listeria recall through shared supply chain relationships, reflecting a broader pattern of supply chain opacity across this company's private label portfolio. Brand 8 to avoid: Kroger Store. Brand Cottage Cheese. Kroger's standard store brand cottage cheese, as distinct from its Simple Truth Organic line, carries Carrageenan and gum thickeners. The Simple Truth Organic line is meaningfully different, with a cleaner ingredient list reflecting organic certification requirements. Buying Kroger Simple Truth. Organic and buying Kroger standard store brand are two different products with different ingredient standards, and similar packaging can obscure that difference at shelf. Brand 7 to avoid: Horizon Organic Cottage Cheese. Horizon Organic carries the USDA Certified Organic Seal, which for most consumers functions as a comprehensive quality guarantee. The critical issue is that USDA organic certification does not prohibit Carrageenan, and some Horizon Organic cottage cheese varieties include it. The USDA's own National Organic Standards Board voted twice to recommend removing Carrageenan based on peer-reviewed research linking it to intestinal inflammation. It was not removed. A consumer paying the organic premium for cleaner ingredients must still read the ingredient list because the organic seal and the ingredient list are not the same document. Brand 6 to avoid: Knudsen Cottage Cheese. Knudsen is a Kraft Heinz brand with California dairy heritage. Parade's taste test placed it in the reliable but not particularly distinctive category, with a processed texture reflecting ingredient engineering rather than dairy quality. As a Kraft Heinz product, Knudsen shares its parent company and cost-oriented production model with Breakstone's. Independent nutrition analysis consistently flags the Knudsen formula for the gum additives and stabilizers that appear across the most heavily processed mainstream brands. Brand 5 to avoid: Breakstone's Cottage Cheese. Breakstone's is a Kraft Heinz brand and one of the most widely distributed cottage cheese products in the country. Eat this not that's registered nutritionist stated. Its ingredient list is much longer than better alternatives and contains ingredients that seem unnecessary for a good-tasting cottage cheese. Breakstone's varieties include Carrageenan, modified food starch, and a gum thickener package absent from the clean brands in this video. No sourcing transparency or third-party quality certification is published for Breakstones. Brand 4 to avoid: Great Value Cottage Cheese, Walmart. Great Value is Walmart's private label, and its cottage cheese has been specifically called out in consumer nutrition analysis for containing both Carrageenan and guar gum in the same product. Consumer nutrition publication Eat Cook Today specifically described the Great Value cottage cheese ingredient list as a bit of a science experiment, with Carrageenan and guar gum both present on the back of the container. The double thickener approach, where both a seaweed-derived gel former and a legume-based gum appear in the same product, represents the maximum additive concentration typical of private label commodity dairy. Walmart does not publish sourcing transparency for Great Value dairy, which means there is no consumer-facing information about the farms or milk quality standards behind the product. Brand 3 to avoid: Hood Cottage Cheese. Hood cottage cheese was described in Eat This Not That as having a long ingredient list with many ingredients that seem unnecessary. The published label confirms a triple gum package of xanthan gum, locust bean gum, and guar gum simultaneously present. The Daring Kitchen specifically flagged this gum combination. The addition of natural flavor to plain cottage cheese is noted as unnecessary, given that properly produced cottage cheese from quality milk does not require flavoring agents. Hood is owned by Dairy Farmers of America, the largest dairy cooperative in the U.S., and operates within a commodity dairy model prioritizing yield and shelf stability over simplicity. Brand 2 to avoid: Country Fresh Cottage Cheese. Country Fresh is now operated under Treehouse Foods after Dean Foods filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2019. Its cottage cheese ingredient list represents the most additive-laden formula in this video. The published label includes cultured non-fat milk, milk, cream, whey, maltodextrin, guar gum, citric acid, carrageenan, mono and diglycerides, locust bean gum, salt, natural and artificial flavors, potassium sorbate, and enzymes. 14 separate ingredients in a product that should contain 4. Maltodextrin is a high glycemic corn-derived additive. Mono and diglycerides are emulsifiers from partially processed vegetable fats. The additive-laden formula reflects the cost reduction approach that defined the brand under Dean Foods. Brand 1 to avoid: any low-fat or non-fat cottage cheese with Carrageenan listed. This entry is a label category rather than a single brand, and it is first because it is the single most predictive signal of overprocessed cottage cheese available on any label. The mechanism is documented. When manufacturers remove fat from cottage cheese, the mouthfeel and texture that dairy fat naturally provides must be replaced by something else. That something else, in the majority of reduced fat and non-fat cottage cheese products across all brands covered in this video and many beyond it, is Carrageenan. The Cornucopia Institute's cottage cheese scorecard lists Carrageenan presence as a primary negative quality indicator. The USDA's own National Organic Standards Board has twice voted to recommend removing it from organic certification. Before any cottage cheese goes in your cart, check the ingredient list for the word Carrageenan. If it is there, put it back regardless of which brand name is on the front. Clean brand: Good Culture Cottage Cheese. Good Culture is the most widely recommended cottage cheese brand by independent nutrition analysts, and the reasons are consistent across every source that covers the category. The ingredient list for Good Culture plain cottage cheese is cultured pasteurized whole milk, cream, and salt. 3 ingredients: no Carrageenan, no gums, no modified starch, no natural flavors, no preservatives. Good Culture also publishes sourcing information about the farms that supply its milk, all of which must meet published animal welfare and farming standards. It is available at Target, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Kroger, and most major grocery chains, and the price premium over additive-heavy conventional brands is real but small when measured against what you are actually getting. Clean brand Daisy Cottage Cheese, plain varieties only. Daisy is one of the most accessible clean label options in the cottage cheese category, and its plain varieties carry an ingredient list that multiple independent taste tests have specifically praised for the absence of unnecessary additives. DoorDash's independent taste test noted that Daisy's simplicity showed in the fullness of its dairy flavor, unlike competitors that use stabilizers like guar gum or locust bean gum. Parade's review confirmed robust curds, clean flavor, and no unnecessary additives. The caveat is plain varieties only. Daisy's flavored fruit varieties and some low-fat options include additives not present in the plain version. Daisy is widely available, affordable, and one of the only mainstream-priced cottage cheese brands that earns its place on the clean list. Clean brand: Nancy's Organic Probiotic Cottage Cheese. Nancy's is an Oregon-based dairy brand that has been producing probiotic dairy products since 1960 and publishes its ingredient sourcing and farming standards transparently. Nancy's Organic Probiotic Cottage Cheese uses certified organic milk, contains no Carrageenan, no gums, and no artificial additives, and adds live probiotic cultures beyond the standard starter cultures used in conventional cottage cheese. The Mamavation Cottage Cheese analysis named Nancy's Organic Probiotic as one of the excellent options in the category for its nutritional profile and minimal processing. Nancy's is available at Whole Foods, Sprouts, natural food retailers, and an increasing number of mainstream grocery chains. Drop a comment and tell us which brand has been in your fridge. And subscribe because we are running this same ingredient check across every major grocery category so you always know what the label is actually telling you.